Beautiful people, what's happening? Once again, it's your boy Smith. We here at Public Comment. You know how I get down. Public Comment is my podcast I created. Oh my goodness, about 3 years now. I'm thinking 2 years, 2.5 years, and it was just out of the organic nature to deliver some information. I was attending some sort of community event in a local town, not my town, and a lot of the great resources and programs that was being discussed, come to find out, if maybe a small amount of people knew how to access those programs, those resources, those individuals, those departments, or what have you. And I left there like, okay, how do we get information out? And just trying to be creative, and an old man at that. I was like, oh, what is this podcast thing? And I looked into it, and I was like, wow, what a great avenue, just to kind of share information, whether it's motivational, inspirational, educational. But I wanted to have a vehicle, to get the information out. And so if you've been following along, I've done some educational, some folks come on, some I've had, oh my goodness, a couple of local elected officials come on. And then we just did a recap of the LCAP part of the education. So again, that was the purpose of where we're at today. And then to get to this particular summer series, Black Women 2023, I was just like, how do we sensationalize our Black women that are here now? I got fed up. We got another Black woman first, another Black, and I'm like, why are we doing, what is going on here that we're still having first? So I just took it and was like, okay, let's talk about the wonderful Black women that are in my space, that are in existence, and not only are in my space, but at the same time are occupying other space and there are other people's space. So it's like this just multiple waves of areas that they're transcending and that they're in multiple times and spaces. And I was like, here we go. And here we are. And I think now our next guest is going to serve as our fifth guest. And my wonderful guest today, again, it's crazy how like all of these women have come into my life so far. The first couple anyway, outside of my sister and my little cousin, was just like the organic nature and the power of the internet has made this world so very small. And my next guest, who I'm pleased to have on, she made time. Her last month has been quite fulfilling and a little bit sorrowful, but she made it here today. Dr. Jules Lytle. Now, did you want Juliana? Are we okay with Dr. Jules or?
Dr. Jules is great. So Juliana Lytle is the name that I have on all those documents. However,
Right.
people that know and love me call me Dr. Jules.
Dr. Jules, then it is. People, it's Dr. Jules is joining us today. How are you doing, ma'am?
I am doing well, sir. How about yourself?
I am outstanding. It is a pleasure to see you. And again, I just want to extend like the gratitude for making some time for us today. I know you've been on the go lately, so
You know,
welcome home.
thank
Um,
you, thank you. I'm
and
happy to be home, even though I was in your neck of the woods for quite a bit of time.
absolutely,
I'm
absolutely,
still happy to be able to be here, even in my neck of the woods.
absolutely.
I love the change and how small the world has become because of the internet, and I'm happy to be able to reach out and be like, "Smith's my bro."
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. It's just I can't tell you how wonderful it is to have you here. And you look happy, you look fresh, you look beautiful. So we're gonna get on with this. And let's give a quick bio right quick. Before we get to the bio, ladies and gentlemen, you know how to find me. Public Comment is on all your podcast platforms, Spotify, Google, all of that good stuff. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. If you like it, share it, leave some comments or what have you. And thank you for tuning in and make sure you share. So the bio really quick, because I got so many wonderful things we got to talk about. Dr. Juliana Lytle, PhD. I'm going to read the letters because I don't know what they mean. LMHC.
Mhm.
The next one is NCC. Dr. Jules is a national board certified counselor, NCC, and a licensed mental health counselor, LMHC. There we go. There's the letters being explained to me. For the state of Florida, having earned her bachelor's of science in psychology and a certificate in women's study from the University of Central Florida. a master's of science in mental health counseling, and a PhD in counselor education and supervision from Walden University. She is a dedicated counselor and counselor educator. Dr. Jules is a proud Afro Latina wife and mother of three who resides in Northeast Florida. She provides therapy to adults, clients via telehealth, and teaches as a contributing faculty member at Walden University. She is the immediate past president of the Florida Association for Spiritual, Ethical, and Religious Values and Counseling, FASERVIC. Looks like it's Florida Service. A member of the Research and Scholarship Committee for the Association for Counseling, Sexology, and Sexual Wellness, and a board member for the Steps Foundation, Inc. In every role she fills, she seeks to serve her community by educating and advocating for equitable treatment and care for all. I'm gonna get my breath now.
That was that was a lot.
That, you know what? I'm so excited that that more bios like that for for women like you. Um, you know, we need that. We need long bios that take a while to read so people can really truly understand the work that you have put in, that you sacrifice your time to get to these levels. You know, these aren't easy. Getting a master's is not easy, people. So we want to salute you and give you your flowers now, Dr. Drews. I appreciate your work so much and what you bring to the table. Anything else you want to throw in?
You know, what's funny is I'm like, I don't want to start to try and list the other things because I know I'm gonna forget something and somebody will be like, "How she just leave?" So we'll stick with what's there.
Outstanding. And well,
There
it is
are other things that I'm working on and getting into, publications, presentations, things like that I'm trying to really do more of because
mm,
to your point, I don't think that we see many of us in a lot of spaces, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't fall into the trap of, oh, I'm licensed now, I'm just going to do this, or oh, I'm this now, so I'm just going to do that. I want to still do all the things, and maybe it's lofty goals and ambitions, but for now, I'm gonna,
absolutely.
I'll leave space to add more.
There we go. I like it. I like it. It's phenomenal as we are, and I don't expect anything less more successful to be added to this resume. I know before we got on the show, we began the show, we was talking about your grandmother
Yeah.
and your grandfather. Um, I could hear the love in your heart when you was talking about them. Is it okay if we kind of start there and talk
Sure,
about grandmother and grandfather
absolutely.
and
So
their role in your life?
my paternal grandparents, so my dad's mom and father, um, are 92 years old. Um, one is and one was.
Mm,
And so they played a huge part in my life. I spent my summers in California. I'm a Florida girl for all intents and purposes, but I spent every summer up until I graduated high school and went off and became an adult. Every summer I was in
wow,
California.
wow.
So I feel I'm pretty well versed on both coasts in a lot of
Okay,
ways.
okay, okay.
Spent that time at my grandmother's house, and spending time with I'm her namesake. Her name was Julia. I'm Juliana because of that.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
and she was just a wonderful, wonderful woman. She was a military wife, never worked outside of her home, but she worked every day of her life.
Wow, wow.
Um, they traveled, and she traveled with my grandfather. Like
Mm,
my I think my aunt and my dad were in school in Germany at one point, and
mm,
just different
mm.
places. They had four kids. They knew each other almost their whole lives. They grew up around the corner from one another. Basically, born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Let me get it right.
Okay, okay, okay.
And just a large family unit. She was one of nine. She was number six of nine children,
Mm, mm.
and she was very close with all of her siblings, but she was the last of them. So she made it longer than everyone else, and just but the longevity on that side. Her dad was 103 when he passed.
Wow.
We had a centennial celebration of him in their
Outstanding.
town. So it wasn't. Um, unexpected for her to be here long, but it's
Mhm.
such an honor to have that. For people who are biblical, anything past like 75 years is crazy.
Mhm.
And so,
Right,
it's like, wow, like you did
right.
that thing. And so she was always just a prayer warrior, a
Mhm.
woman who like she would literally stop whatever she was doing to pray for somebody.
Say that.
And she would go to the beauty salon. It was just her habits were so fantastical. It seems like a story.
Mhm.
She would literally spend an entire day at the beauty salon. Now I know for us black women, ethnic
Mhm.
women, spending a day at the salon is not unheard of. But
Right.
usually, it's like 5, 6 hours. She would spend the entire day. And
Heard
it
that.
was like we used to have to be like, can I have my grandmother? Can I have
Right, 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 right.
she went to the beauty salon. They kept her because they loved her. They called her Mother Forest. She prayed over
Mm,
every woman in there.
mm.
It was just she would basically be holding Bible study at the beauty salon, and it
I was
was
about to say yes.
who she was, and it was so typical of her to just give and care for others. And she became a mom, a mother to everyone around her. So it wasn't unheard of for them to be like Mom Forrest or Mom,
Mhm.
whenever she was around. And just her neighborhood, the love and affection of people that showed up for her, for her service, for the family, just coming by to bring food or bring, it was just, it felt so old school. I
Yes.
loved it.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
yeah.
lie. I've lived in Florida most of my life. I even know a lot of my neighbors.
Mhm.
But I don't know that they would show up en masse like that.
Understood,
And it
understood.
just speaks to the character of who she is and who she was. And then my grandfather, just if you could imagine just one of the most calm presences in the
Mm.
world, like just warm and calm and love. And that's what I remember. Some of my favorite memories. He retired from the military service. He worked for the post office, retired from the post office,
Mhm.
got tired of being retired and went and drove trucks until he was in his 80s.
Wow.
um,
Wow.
so he's now really settling into retired, and he's a little bored with that.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Been a
I
man of action for so long. As
love
a
it.
matter of fact, I was down there, I'm talking about a 92-year-old man who literally was like, "Oh, I'll run you up the street." He drove me to Walmart or wherever we were going the
Right,
other day.
right,
He's like,
right.
"I got you. Let's go,"
Love
and
it, love
he's
it,
doing it. So
love it.
I'm glad to have been able to spend this time with them. And I was there for a month, loving
Mhm.
on and spending time with everyone there on that side. And their love is what I hope to one day have, to have been married at age 20 and to still be married today.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes,
that's
yes.
not the
Yeah,
norm.
yeah, for folks that don't know, Dr. Jules and I co-host another show with a wonderful lady who was also a guest on here, Sister Abigail. Man, we've had multiple conversations, many conversations just around family structure and dynamics.
Yeah.
And I just want to extend this, like I can hear it in your voice, right? And I don't think it's a matter of you hoping if you have that love. I can already know and tell you that I acknowledge it is existing in you. And I'm sure you're going to pass that down to your children, to your husband, and whatnot going forward. Um, I would just like to highlight things I pick up on. Your grandparent, I believe your grandmother came from Baton Rouge. Folks, understand the and do your research. And I don't want to, but I want to do your research about the Black migration out the South. And if you look at the geographical layout of the South, you'll see a lot of Californians, Black Californians, came from Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas. So the lineage there, the paths were there. But read on that. There's a great book, The Wrath of Sons. Check it out. It's a wonderful book. Now to get back to the doctor, me and you share a common out. I did not know you was leaving Florida to come here for the summer. I was leaving California to go to Rhode Island for the summer. And I did that from probably age of 8 up until about 16, 17, or something like
So
that.
you're bi-coastal baby too.
I am. Look at us, right? Right. We came on matching. I mean, it's just
Right.
all
Serendipity.
all of it was supposed to happen. So talk because I know my childhood kind of got interrupted. I don't want to say interrupted. My childhood changed when I would leave and go stay with my father for the summer. So talk about you growing up and you know those lessons, those experiences, some of those things that might have molded you. You know, trying to okay, I'm a child, but then two, I'm black, and then I'm changing coast. I mean, just paint that picture for us.
So I'm not only black, I'm black and Hispanic. And
Say that.
so it's it's a very interesting balance because if you see me, I have chocolate brown skin, like
Yes.
dark, beautifully melanated skin and tight curly hair. Like,
Mhm.
but my mom, who is my Hispanic parent, is who I spent the majority of my year with. And so I do not speak fluently. I don't
Mhm.
speak Spanish fluently, I'll say, but I understand a lot. And so most people can speak in Spanish, and I know what's happening. I know what,
Right.
and I can respond in English. And so there were times when I would be in spaces where I didn't necessarily feel like I fit all the way,
Mm.
but I, it was so funny because my mom was so purposeful about the way she raised us. She raised us to be confident wherever we were and to just go in with the love and like just being your full self, like who you are, you know, like it or leave it, type
Right.
mentality. And I loved that, but I was always very, very shy. I know
Mhm.
you can't imagine it right this moment, but I was exceedingly shy when I was little. And so I spent the majority of my year with my mom and my big sister, and then later it would be my brother and my little sister, and that was my primary family. Summertime comes, I fly to California. I am basically an only child
Right. Right.
at loose ends and spending the majority of my time with adults. And
Mhm.
while I absolutely loved that, it took a few years before I had a little sister on that side, and I didn't get to see her as much either
Mhm.
because, different moms, different situations. She's with her siblings and so forth. So I spent a lot of time just hanging out with adults, older adults. I've always been a little old lady, is what
Mhm.
what all the adults would say about me, because I had the best time. Like, kind of as we mentioned before the show started, I love just sitting and talking with older individuals. And maybe it's from my childhood of spending time with older adults like that, but that's my favorite thing to do. Sit and hear stories about their youth, sit and hear stories about what life is like where they grew up or where they're from. And just so I've always been a sponge for that.
Mhm.
And it made me not only just enjoy the art of storytelling and how powerful that historical like adventure can be for someone, I also love just the honor and respect that I feel is inherent in being around a person who is older than me and who can impart some knowledge that I don't yet have.
Mhm.
And so I am a lifelong learner. We talked about all those degrees and things like that. But even if I
Right.
didn't have those, my nose is in a book. My
Right. 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 Right.
my nose is in a book happily. And so I love live storytelling. I feel like that's really what it is. And so, I mentioned I could talk all day because I love to hear people's stories. It's part of
Mhm.
what feeds the professional in me as a clinician. I want to hear people's stories. I want to help them unravel the parts of those stories that don't make sense and cause them hurt, harm, and whatever. But that's it. But it happened so organically. I didn't
Right.
ever set out to go. You know what I want to be. It happened, and it fit me so well. So
and
that's
and that and that and that is that's crazy because that's my next question, or that was going to lead us to that. Like, how did you figure out, oh, this is what I want to do? What was that concept like? Well, I think you answered it because of your conversations, right? But then talk about maybe now, how do I get there? What is this college? What does this journey look like to get to me
right.
wanting to be able to talk to people?
So I can give a little bit more to that too. So I was about 10 when I realized what I wanted to do. And I didn't have an actual name for it just yet. I just knew I wanted to help people. And I got to be a peer advisor
Mm,
in my elementary school. It was basically if two students got into a fight,
mm,
they would have me and another peer advisor go in with the two students that got into a fight to see if we could come to some sort of semblance of peace and recollection before they got like expelled or something like that. And it felt, and I just mentioned I was really shy. So I didn't talk to people like that. I didn't
Mhm.
really, I had such a large extended family. I didn't feel the need to like seek out friends. And I was cool because I was like, I'm shy. It's cool. I don't need to talk to anybody. If they talk to me, that's fine. But I'm not going up to anyone. And
Right.
so it just so happened that I got tapped for this, and it was because my own citizenship, was stellar or whatever. But I just remember being like, they don't know I don't like to talk to people. Like they don't understand.
Right. Right.
This is uncomfortable for me. But I ended up enjoying talking to these kids and getting them to like figure out what the real issue is. Like most
Mhm.
of the time it was a rumor or something that wasn't true or miscommunication, right? Now that moves on to me really kind of like wanting to understand how people think and how people come to these ways of being and behaviors, right? I'm very logically focused in a lot of ways, and so I'm like, well, behaviors come from somewhere, right? Like we
Mhm.
have to. So it for me made sense to then get into psychology. But as I was in psychology in undergrad, so I went to the University of Central Florida for a bachelor's degree in psychology because I thought that was going to lead me to where I wanted. And I realized, well, not really. They look more at psychology and counseling are very closely related. They're like
Mhm.
cousins.
Mhm.
But there's a little more to the focus on medical issues in psychology than in counseling, where we're teaching you how to manage your own behaviors, your own reactions to things, um, and to basically be able to shift the, like, it's not things happening to you, it's
Mhm.
you reacting and how you decide to move forward, right?
Mhm.
So shifting from the world is happening to me to what can I put out into the world kind of direction. And so I was like, okay, counseling is a great foundation, but that's not what I want to do. I want to help people figure out how to help themselves.
Mhm.
That's where counseling came in. And so to be a licensed clinician in any state, you need to have a master's in counseling of some sort. And so there's also some social work overlap there too, but we're distinguishing ourselves as a completely separate profession in some ways. And so being able to really specialize in that was something that I prayed about a lot and
Mhm.
figured out it's going to take some work. That
Mhm.
happened to be the time of my life when I was having babies, um, starting to have babies at least, and recognizing, cost being what it is and things like that. But this was a goal, and I had a partner who was like, if that's your goal, I'm here for it. Let's do this.
Mhm.
Like, we'll
Mhm.
figure it out. And we did.
Mhm.
Fast forward to me being in my master's program, really enjoying the information I was learning and figuring out, okay, what do I want to do with this information? Once I take it, what do I want to do? I don't necessarily just want to go into community mental health. I've helped in in a lot of ways in that regard. I love practitioners who can stay community mental health all the time, but it is an extremely difficult path, I will
Mhm.
say. And not that I was looking for an easy path. I don't feel like I
Right.
this profession to want something easy, but
Mhm.
I recognized how quickly community mental health workers are burning out.
Mhm.
It's because the caseloads are huge. The reward is very small in some instances, and there's just not as much support as there should be. And
Mhm.
until that system is corrected, to me, it felt like I would be doing a disservice to put myself in that, knowing that I'm not going to get the support I need. I'm not going to be, because I'm going to fizzle. I'm going to
Mhm.
burn out so quickly. I won't be able to help as many people.
Mhm.
And so, and obviously being a mom and a wife and a family member, I didn't want to leave, you know, the broken remnants for my family to have
Mhm.
at the
Mhm.
end of the day. And so I said, well, how can I still help and not necessarily like kill myself doing it, to be honest.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so looking at private practice was the most logical path for me in that regard. But then, as I mentioned, I'm in my master's and I'm getting my professors saying things like, you really spark really good conversations in your peers. You really took that discussion post to the next level. And this is an online program, so you don't get
Mhm.
a whole lot of face to face time. Um, but, I'm up at the midnight hours, baby in an arm, typing one handed, trying to get this thing done. And I'm still getting praised about the type of work and the type of um, information and conjecture I'm getting to go in
Mhm.
in the course room. And so one of my teachers one day said, "Have you considered teaching?" And I really had not. I've always been like, teaching, no, that's a thankless job. Like people, give teachers their butts to kiss on a
Mhm.
regular, even though they get us to every position we need to be in.
Right, right, exactly,
And
exactly.
so I was like, teaching? Oh no, why would I? I don't know about that. And but then it kind of settled in. It was like like an earworm, isn't it?
Mhm.
When you hear a song and it's stuck, like it was. I was just like, huh, maybe that is something that I might need to do, or maybe consider. And I remember starting to kind of feel it settle in, and I started praying about it and talking to my husband about it and praying a little bit more about it and still talking to my husband about it. He's like, well, babe, if that's what you want to do, because I was closing out on my master's, and I was like, well, I'm gonna look for a position, but I think I want to apply for the PhD program. And he's like, well, we've made it this far without you have, I'm barely working, if that, just
Mhm.
enough to get some hours in. Honestly, in some cases, I was probably costing us more
Right,
to
right,
work
right,
to
right.
work than I
Mhm.
was earning. But it was so that I could also be getting the hours that I needed, also be getting other things done. And so when I made the decision to start the PhD program, I was 2 months. I was 8 months pregnant. Yeah,
Mhm.
I started my PhD program 2 months before I gave
Wow,
birth to our third child.
wow, wow,
I had
wow,
uh, in my newborn, a toddler, and then my oldest was just starting school.
wow. Full plate, full plate.
Full plate, little extra
Yeah,
overload.
more of a smorgasbord.
Yeah, um, but I had and still have an outstanding partner and family and support network, right?
Mhm.
So I'm not going to pretend that I got here on my own.
Right,
It
right,
was
right.
definitely the grace of God and a lot of folks and moving parts trying to make sure that I could get things done. There were
Absolutely.
challenges in that too, because doing school online with a family like my family, it was very difficult for them to really understand boundaries at times
Mhm,
and to
mhm.
know, yeah, I'm technically home, but I have work to do. It
Right,
just
right.
trying to navigate that was its own thing. But ultimately, I recognized that I love counseling so much. I wanted to make sure that counselors coming behind me, first of all, saw faculty that looked like them,
Absolutely.
or didn't, as it were, and then and then also had the opportunity to talk to someone, speak to someone, experience someone who was literally in the seats they're in.
Mhm.
I wanted, I teach at the school I graduated for. One of the places I teach, I actually teach for another couple other schools as well. But it was a point of pride for me to be able to say, I literally have been where you are. I know that it can be done, and it can be done well. You know,
Yes.
and so that was kind of the motivating force, the driving push that kind of really got me to where I am right now. And we're, 3 years out since I'm still a baby doctor,
Right, right, right.
still new
Doctor nonetheless.
doctor nonetheless, but
Doctor
still new on
nonetheless.
the scene. So I'm still finding my footing in the fullness of all the things that I can do and want to do. But I wouldn't take it back. I wouldn't trade a thing, because I feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be.
Absolutely. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And doing a phenomenal job, may I add.
Thank
There's so many things to unpack there, but I don't want to derail us.
you. And I know
But
that's a really roundabout, long way to answer your question.
no, no, no. I mean, that's what, again, doctor, like, I really want young women to hear those stories. And those stories can't be said in a minute, and they can't be said in 3 words. Life happens and it needs to be explained. young black women coming up now need to know what the struggle consists of. I
Yeah.
shouldn't say the struggle, the journey consists of. It a lot of things don't happen overnight.
I
It
mean,
take
struggle's not an untrue word there. I
Oh,
mean, I feel like there's no journey without some struggle.
yes,
You're going,
there.
even if it's just preparing for the journey, there's going to be some challenges in there.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's why I'm saying there's no limitation on, you answering. Because there might be one thing in there that you said that this young lady was like, "Oh, I got you now. I understand." So I think it's all valuable. But the part that I heard, well, I heard it all, but the part that stood out was the representation matters.
Yes.
Right. As I work in the school district, and seeing what just gets under my skin all the time is when I see this old white guy going in to talk to this 15-year-old black kid, and he comes out with this long list of highlights like, this is the problem. This I'm like, really, bro? Come on, man. you
Yes.
know. So thank you for being a mirror. I definitely see the need for it. So thank you very much for that. Um, doing all of that through your journey, you touched on being a mom. Um, you know, Again, the reason why I'm doing this show is just to understand so black women can talk about being a mom.
Yes.
I know it's different. I've never lived it, but you know, my mom and then my wife and then my sister, I just talk about being a mom,
It's one
a
of
black
those
mom,
things.
black and Latino mom. I mean, to me,
Yeah,
they're not too much difference.
not too much different. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap
Yes,
to
absolutely,
be sure.
absolutely.
And so I don't think I specified I'm African American, but I'm Panamanian. So
Ah,
my people are from Panama, Central America. That little
gotcha.
link between the two larger bodies of larger continents. And so Panama's an interesting place because a lot of the people there look like me,
Right.
but when they open their mouths, English is not what comes out.
And
And
I don't want to derail you, but I think there's a large misnomer that they don't look like. Oh, they look like us.
right,
And I was in a Dominican Republic, and they're calling me brother, and I'm like, man, I can't even speak Spanish. So,
right,
but
and
I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
they
you're right.
they probably just think you're denying your heritage or
Right. Absolutely. Which I'm not. Which I'm
something. And so I was raised by my mom. She was a single mom for a good portion of my childhood. Thankfully, I have an outstanding stepfather who came into the picture. My mom had 4 kids, and he had 2 of his own. So we kind of Brady
Wow.
Bunch this thing together.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
but but I remember the cool thing about my childhood was, in spite of, or maybe because of having it just be my mom, me, and my older sister for about 8 years of my life,
Hmm.
I was so enthralled by the idea of powerful women. My mom has always worked hard and worked well and maintained our home. Don't get me wrong, she had a support network, she had family. There were times when, my aunts and uncles would be like, I don't know why y'all are in Florida. Y'all should be up here with us or wherever
Right.
they
Right.
were,
Right.
but my mom held her ground. She wanted us to be where we were,
Love
and
it.
she loved on us so strongly. And I can't really, I know there were lean times, but it wasn't something that was made that I was really aware of as a kid.
Hmm.
Like, maybe in hindsight, like, oh yeah, she did make a dollar stretch. Oh yeah, she did. There were lots of things that she did to make sure we had, and I didn't. But at the time, as a kid, I had a fantastic childhood.
Hmm.
You couldn't have told me I was missing anything. I
Right.
I loved that it was me, my mom, my sister. We were rocking. Like,
Hmm.
I have vivid memories of being like, this is wonderful. Like, I
Hmm.
love this. It got a little funky once we added other folks in there. I think for me,
Right.
I was like, man, oh, the good old days when it was just us three. But I recognized the need my mom had to have a partner and a life mate,
Wow.
that would love and support her children as well as her. Um, and so we I had a great example of what motherhood look like with
Hmm.
my mother. I had a great example in my aunts. I had a great example in my grandmothers. And so for me, it wasn't really going to be, I don't think I consciously thought about having kids
Hmm.
until I was in a partnership to have kids because
Gotcha.
I had such a large family. I just remember being like, there's always some little kid around. There's always something. And I was like, that seems like a lot. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. That's a lot of, care. My sister was a huge family. She still is a huge family person. She went on to have 5 kids, like, and I'm
Bless
like,
her heart.
let's see, right, right.
Yeah, bless her heart.
My exact reaction. So when I envisioned my life and myself as a young person, I was like, I might have two.
Hmm.
And I was like, and I want to have boys because, boys, they are easier than girls, at least in my head, because I grew up in a household full of girls. With the two, between my mom and my stepdad, there are 5 girls and 1 boy. And so lots of feminine energy
Yes,
in
yes.
our home. And so for me, I was like, I don't think I would be blessed enough to get a really mellow girl like
Mhm.
myself. I think that would be weird.
Mellow.
I was like, my mom is loud, wonderful, just energetic woman. And I embody some of that.
Yeah,
Like
right, right.
like what you see from me is probably just a very tiny pinch of all that my mother is.
Love
And
it.
so I was like, I don't know if I could do, like, I don't know. I don't know if I
Hmm.
could navigate that. Um, but I had the fortune, well, honestly, it's not even fortune, it's literally God said, here's the man I have for you.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
when I met my husband, I thought he was absolutely crazy. This man said he wanted 17 kids.
Well, hold on.
Right. Let's sit, swallow that down for a moment.
That says why he loves the Wu Tang. That 'cause they just had a lot of people up in there.
Right. I was like, he wanted to be like ODB. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
we're not, we're not having, that's not a thing. Sir, I'm sorry. You must be confused. I think you accidentally added some additional
Right,
children into that equation. No, I just
right. Wow.
remember being like, he's kidding.
Hmm.
He was serious. Thank goodness that God knows what he does better than we do because we had 3.
There
That
we
was the
go.
compromise,
Hmm. Hmm.
we got from 17 to 3. I mean, but they're, each individual child is so different and so wonderful on their own. But being a mom to me is such a, it's such a cool experience. Like when they were really little, I loved that I got to spend my days with them. I was blessed enough to be able to stay home with my kids for the first portion of their lives. And so being literally there day in, day out, caring for these young human beings, shaping these minds, and seeing how brilliant and funny and just weird they all could be.
Weird.
It is such an honor every single day of my life. All of them have crazy, ridiculous senses of humor. Um, just stellar kids. Like I
Mhm.
can't, I mean, the biggest complaint I have is that they can be a little messy
Mm,
sometimes. That might
mm,
be on me a
mm,
little bit. I was a little overactive in the things that I did for them. So now I'm
mhm.
trying to undo that before they get
Right,
out in the world on their own and can't clean
right,
up for themselves.
right, right.
Uh,
Uh, what I heard in there, you used the word honor. It's an honor to be their mom. That hits my heart. That's awesome. That's awesome.
well, because think of it, like God blessed me to steward these young minds
Mm,
in
mm,
this world. And as crazy as our world is, as scary and as sad as it can be at times, they are little balls of joy that He
right,
gave me and said, here, I trust you to do something with them. And I'm like,
right.
okay. That first one is always the one where they say the first one's the one you always do the worst with. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know that we did the worst with our oldest. I feel like he is so much of a young man now. He'll be 16 at the end of August.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
And he is such a just intelligent, caring person. Like I feel like I'm like success because
Yes.
if all I could do is put caring human beings out in the world, I don't care if you don't ever clean a dish in your life. you know,
Say that.
like I'll take that. I'll take
Right.
a person who treats others with love and affection.
Mm,
He, my kids just spent a month without me. That's the longest time I've ever been away from my children and my husband
mm,
since the inception of our family.
mhm,
And aside from a, oh, mom, I miss you, I didn't get, when are you coming home? Or why,
mhm, mhm,
because they understood the importance of what I was doing, of the time I was spending. They sat on FaceTime with me and talked to their grandfather, their great grandfather, my
mm,
grandfather, you
mhm.
know, and you know how short the attention spans of our children really
Yeah,
are
yeah,
nowadays
yeah, yes, yeah.
in our quick society where everything's at the push of a button. And
Mhm,
they sat and they listened and they talked with their great grandfather without me asking. I was just
right.
like, oh, Papa's there. They, say hi. And they would sit and talk with us. And for me, it just was, like I said, I was so proud and just again honored that these are the humans I helped create.
You did it. You did it. So congratulations. They sound wonderful. I mean, I'm still the word honored. Just that. Not too often do I hear parents say they're honored. Um, me too. I'm humbled and grateful that someone even would even think of me as a father. Like someone thought like, oh, this dude can be a dad. So I definitely understand.
I
Um,
emulate.
yeah, yeah. So, and then to wrap up, we talked a lot about, the things you did, your experiences, your journey. The intersectionality of it all is that you're a black woman,
Yeah.
you know. I've never been a black woman. I can't speak on that experience, and that's why I'm doing this. So, doctor, the floor is yours to talk about just being a black woman.
I think the thing about being a Black woman that to me was most impactful was when I stopped expecting to fit boxes that were never made for me to fit into. Um, Specifically about looks and um, just beauty standards, things like that. I've always been short, curvy. I've always been beautifully melanated, as I mentioned before.
Yes,
Nice
ma'am.
dark chocolate skin,
Mhm.
which wasn't always in style, even within our own community. And so, but I've always had, like I said, my mom and my family behind me. I was talking to one of my cousins the other day. He is also similarly complected. He's one of my big cousins, but we were raised like siblings.
Mhm.
So I call him brother, you
Mhm.
know. Um, and he is one of the first people in my life that I remember telling me I was beautiful.
Wow.
And he's a little older than me. We're later in our years, and I just had a moment one day where I just said, I don't know if I ever told you this, or I don't know if I ever said thank you, but you're one of the reasons why I'm the confident person I am now. I
Wow.
said, you're one of the first people in my, he used to call me his beautiful black China doll. He
Mhm.
would just, my eyes, it's a whole thing. But anyway, he,
Mhm. Mhm.
he just would talk about how beautiful I was and tell me, I don't care what anybody else says, because in my family, we range in complexions.
Same
I have
here.
very, very, very light skinned family members. I have very, very dark skinned family members. I have family members with extremely straight hair. I have family members with really curly hair, and everything in between. And so I just remember always wanting to look a little bit lighter
Mhm.
because my mom had more of a cinnamon tone to her. My sister was what would be considered red bone,
Mhm.
and so for me, I was like, I'm all right, but if I was that color,
Mhm.
and I remember, I don't know if I said something like that. I don't remember what led him to be like, no, no, like your skin is chocolate, your skin is beautiful, and I remember being like, oh, okay. So me, just as I am, can be beautiful too.
Absolutely.
And I was probably, I don't know, maybe 10, 12, right before you really start settling into that like worry about who's gonna like you and
Oh, yeah.
all of those things. And I just
Oh, yeah.
remember being like, okay. And it I was always shy up until right before high school started. I was really, really shy. And so I never even considered that a guy would like me, or
Mhm.
that, because again, I didn't fit the like rail thin, you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
skinny, cute, light skinned girl, or even, and I remember being like, well, I'm funny, I'm cool. Like, guys hang out with me because guys like to talk to me.
Mhm.
And it never dawned on me that that's not always true. That wasn't
Right,
always
right,
true,
right.
because, you don't know what you don't know. But I remember
Absolutely.
getting to a point in my life where I looked back and went, man, I wish that I had known how beautiful I was the entire time,
Mm.
because I wouldn't have felt this need to constantly want to try to look a certain way. Or I wasn't big on, I didn't do like anything crazy to diet or anything like that, but I did have a complex about being bigger in my mind, because again, the people around me really petite, really tiny, and I was very curvy. But
Mhm.
I was a size 6, which for people out there now, they're like, "Girl, you were tiny." And I
Mhm.
thought I was huge.
Mhm.
People around me were like size 2, size 3, or size 4. So, but being able to reflect on that now and recognize, even if I was, it doesn't matter what size I am. It doesn't matter the size you are. Your beauty is not just the physical of who you are, it's everything combined, right? Your physicality, your mentality, all of that impacts how beautiful you are. And so I recognize that about myself. And I'm so glad I know it now. And I'm trying to instill that into those coming behind me, especially my daughter, because I know that things are shifting. I love that things are shifting. I know the Barbie movie's coming out. People are talking about that. But it's like, even Barbies are now like, they have fuller figured Barbies. They have Barbies who are in wheelchairs. And there's so many things about our society that are definitely shifting in the right direction.
Mhm.
Don't worry, I'm not oblivious to the things that are going the wrong way,
Right,
but
right, 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 right.
something to being able to see yourself in multiple places around you, not just your immediate family, but in the store window, in the magazine, to see someone that's shaped like you, that looks like you in some way, because we look for ourselves in everything that we do.
Mhm.
It's a natural human thing to just want to see yourself. And I love that you called me a mirror earlier, because I'm so proud of that piece of things. I want to be a reflection. I want to be the person that somebody can go, you know what, Dr. Jules, it she embodies who I hope to be one day. And I didn't have a whole lot of that along the way. I really got the pleasure of, I had maybe 2 faculty of color when I
Mm.
was in my master's and PhD combined,
Mhm.
I that I can remember interacting with, just 2.
Mm.
That's a lot of years of school to not see anybody that looks like you.
Right.
I mean, a lot. And
Yeah.
so when the earworm took hold and I really prayed and thought about it, I made it a point to be a representation. And I wanted to do it in a way that was like, I don't have to have all the money, I don't have to have all the know-how, but I have to just be diligent and be present in the things that I know are for me, and do my best there, so I can be an example for whoever comes behind me. So
Mm.
black womanhood is doing all the things in spite of people telling you you can't, in spite of no one else having done it before you in some
Mm.
case,
Wow. Wow.
and making the decision to do it and just getting it done.
That is so well said. Dr. Jules, you are a beautiful woman, inside and out, uh, highly intelligent, very capable, worthy, loving, caring, phenomenal, energetic, maybe a little bit shy. Maybe you're coming out of your cocoon now. Um,
I was like, I think I blew past the cocoon years ago now, but
okay, okay, okay. Uh, Doctor, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your journey. I love hearing that, you talk about your family and how honored you are, and your and just just being you in your presence, and blossoming into the wonderful doctor you are now. So thank you very much for joining me today.
thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the wonderful, and is still the wonderful Dr. Jules Lytle. Shout out Wu-Tang Clan. That's a whole different conversation. People you don't know about, but, it is worth mentioning. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, this is the show, and again, Dr. Jules is one of the reasons, many reasons, why I'm doing this summer series, Black Women 2023. We have so many powerful, intelligent, beautiful, strong, capable, worthy, excellent Black women doing wonderful things in our everyday presence, and we need to acknowledge them. And this is not my soapbox to say, what I just wanted to make sure that there's an avenue,
Mm.
and then that my legacy shows that now I wasn't just talking about celebrating Black women. I was actually putting some action into it to highlight and put some energy behind the Black women that are in my circle, because each and every one of the women that come on and spoke, and the ones that are coming on next to speak, have played an important part of my life somehow, big, small, or whatever. Their presence, their presence. Dr. Jules told me you don't have to have credentials to be call yourself an educator. So,
Come on,
right.
sir. Sir.
So again, I'm always learning from women, beautiful Black women, and their intelligence and their power, their tenacity and their commitment. So that's our show today. Ladies and gentlemen, share it. Please share it. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be a young woman out there, whether they're Black, whether they're Latina, whether they're Asian, Samoan, Hindu, white, or what have you. There's a young lady out there needing some direction. And I think what we kind of overlook, well, yeah, she got parents. Okay, as a parent, as a teenager or as a young person, sometimes parents, they just go in and out, the words go in and out, and they don't really resonate, and you could tell your beautiful daughter she's beautiful, but then, like Dr. Jewel said, she heard it from her cousin and it
Right.
changed. So we don't know, like, this could be shared with someone, and boom, that light goes on, and now we done set that fire. Now that young lady's off, ready
Mhm.
to take her place amongst the senior young ladies. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the show. We're going to close out, and you know how I do. Make sure you have a conversation with someone that doesn't look or sound like you, and you might learn something if you shut up and be quiet. Beautiful Black people, you know I love you.